Hey team, Yasin here, and in this training, we're going to be talking about the what, why, and who of health. Now, why is this training going to be important for you to make sure that you absolutely pay attention to? Is because inside of this training, we are continuing our theme of the science of transformation by talking about the what, why, and who of health. And you have to keep in mind, we are laying the foundations right now for you to be able to become the best version of yourself and have your own personal transformation and the foundations for you to become a successful remote wellness practitioner, so that way you can coach your own students throughout this transformation. Okay, now always remember, as you learn this information, you are actually going to be turning around and coaching others through it as well. And so that way, it's absolutely critical to make sure that you pay attention and that you keep showing up to this classroom day in and day out. You are doing absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about what is the what, why, and who of health. So if you remember, what we spoke about in the previous training is that we spoke about how the 6 W's of transformation could be applied to any area of life as a whole. And we spoke about how these 6 W's could be applied within health, right? They could be applied. And so we could ask the questions, what to do for my health? Why is health important? Who am I becoming in my health? How do I prioritize my health? When do I prioritize my health? Where do I work on my health? Right? We talked about how we could do that. However, we did say that it was very broad and very difficult to be able to focus on the area of life as a whole. And so what we ended up actually dividing the area of life of health into individual pillars, so that way it was actually more tangible for us to be able to process. However, what I want to talk to you about in this training is that there is value in really looking at the 6 W's of transformation at a whole on the health level, right? So what I'm saying here is that we have the health level, and then individually we have our 4 pillars, right? That's what we said with the diagram up here. And so even though we are going to be applying the 6 W's at the pillar level inside of this module, inside of this training, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and take a second and really look at a few of the 6 W's and specifically relate them to the bigger major area of health, so that way we can go ahead and get some learnings out of that as well, okay? And so out of the 6 W's, there are 3 questions that are very relevant for you and your future students to evaluate within the area of health as a whole. And those 3 questions are, what do I want with my health? Why do I want this with my health? And who am I being, or who am I becoming when it comes to my health? And so you will recall that these are very similar, if not the same 3 W's that we explored in module number 2 when we spoke about the psychology of transformation. And so the reason that we are revisiting these W's inside of this module is to go ahead and put emphasis on them, not only for your transformation, but also for the health transformation of your future students. And so those 3 W's that we're going to be looking at here, right? We talk about the what of health, we talk about the why of health, and we talk about the who of health. And so the what of health is really going to be very familiar to you, because it's really all of the stuff that we talked about in some of the action steps inside of module number 2, right? We said that that was the vision. And so everything that we spoke about in module number 2 that was about the what, about having that clear what, about having that clear vision, about having that clear sense of direction, all of that is going to be applicable here when we actually talk about the what of health. And then the second piece of this is what we talk about with the why of health. And the why of health is actually what I'm going to go ahead and spend the bulk of this training talking about here shortly. So I want you to go ahead and put a pin in this for right now, and I'm going to go ahead and come back to this here in a second. And then the last one here is the who of health. And the who of health is ultimately the who of the person you are becoming inside of your health, right? Their version 2.0 self. And so do you now see how much of the psychology of transformation from module 2 is actually going to help us in this process of transformation, right? Because most of the sessions that you are going to have with your students, most of the trainings that we develop in a hybrid format are actually all about the who. And so you're going to learn more about this when we actually help you map out your transformation curriculum and when we show you the transformation curriculum that we recommend that you do with your clients and with your students, right? You're going to see that most of the transformation sessions that you're going to do one-on-one inside of module number 5, most of those are going to be talking about the who, right? And why is it that we're spending most of the time talking about the who? It's for the same reason that we spoke about in module number 2. Because when you handle the who, the action steps and the doing automatically take care of themselves, right? And so when you start to coach others later on in this program, right, we're going to show you how to be able to do that step by step. When you start to do that, you're going to start to spend a lot more time helping your students through life coaching or other means that we're going to show you how to do, right? To be able to fix areas of their life that are outside of health so that way they can actually prioritize their health. Why is that the case? The reason that's the case is because how you do one thing is how you do everything. Many times, the reason that the student is unable to really prioritize their health and the reason why they need help in their health is because the rest of their life is all over the place. And so what they do is they need actually help becoming somebody completely different so that way they can actually transform their health. Maybe this is starting to ring a bell. Maybe this actually sounds similar to what it is that we spoke about in module number 2, right? And so the same way that you are becoming someone different, you are becoming your version 2.0 self in order to be able to make 6+ figures income online, you are also going to have to help your students transform in their health so that way they can become their version 2.0 self in order to be able to make their health goals a reality, right? And so is this making sense now about how this journey is really a journey for yourself and a journey for your future students at the same time? What you are doing is you are learning how to be able to transform yourself, which is then going to allow you to flip that around and allow you to be able to have the skill to transform the lives of others as well. How cool is that? That's why I wanted to spend some time here and really talk about the who of health as a whole, is because I really wanted you to open your eyes to this fact and this reality of how everything that you are learning is going to apply to your who as well as the who of your future students. So that is just a brief overview of when we talk about the who of health. That's how I wanted to go ahead and relate the what, the why, and the who specifically to the overall domain of health. But what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and flip our focus specifically to the why of health. Okay, I want to go ahead and spend the bulk of this training right here speaking about the why of health. Because if you recall, inside of the previous training, we spoke about 2 ways in which the why is used typically, right? So the first one we talked about was typically it's the general importance or the general understanding of the why behind the topic, right? So in the context of the example of nutrition, why is nutrition important, right? Why is nutrition difficult for many? Why diets don't work, right? That was one way that we could end up utilizing why. But the second way that we could actually utilize why was understanding the student's why, right? And so like we talked about in module number 2, it's about uncovering your own personal why. It's about uncovering your own powerful and clear why behind why you are doing something, right? So why is transforming my health so important to me? Why is transforming my nutrition important for me? Why do I really want to do this, right? What is my why behind my why? And so it is this specific use case of why that I want to go ahead and focus on right now, because that way you're really going to be able to master the why underneath the why, and that way you can really start to unlock it for yourself as well as for your future students. And this concept that we're about to talk about right now, the why underneath the why, that's the name of the concept. This concept is really going to go ahead and elevate your coaching and your remote wellness practice to a whole new standard and really help you in your own personal transformation as well as helping your students attain that transformation as well, right? Because throughout these trainings, what I want to make sure that I hit on is a very important question. And that question is, how is this training going to help me get students for my remote wellness practice? And how is this training going to help me build my reputation as an excellent remote wellness practitioner, right? And so this is one of those concepts. This why under the why is one of those concepts that is going to help you do exactly that. And it's going to really help you stand out. Why is that the case? Because a student is going to reach out to a coach, is going to reach out to an RWP when something is happening in their life and they realize that what it is that they are doing is not working, okay? And so think about for a second the reasons why you reached out to RWA and the reasons why you decided to become a student, right? Again, this whole 2 journeys thing, it's going to really start to mess with you because you're going to start to realize like, oh snap, the exact same thing that I'm going to be helping other students with, other people with, is exactly the same reason within this domain of life that I reached out to RWA, right? And so you're going to realize that there are those parallels there. And so a lot of times, a student who's going to be coming to you in the future, they're going to feel defeated. They might feel overwhelmed. They might feel uncertain, right? Some of these feelings you yourself may currently be feeling, or even you might have been feeling them before you joined the academy, right? Those feelings of feeling defeated, of feeling overwhelmed, of feeling uncertain, by themselves, those feelings are very painful. Never mind having to actually speak to a complete stranger and be able to ask that complete stranger for help, right? And so with all of that fear and with all of that uncertainty, it is very difficult to get students, especially in the beginning, it is very difficult to get students to open up about the real reason why they actually want to transform their lives. And many times, students themselves may not actually be sure about why is it that they want that, because they feel so defeated, they feel so overwhelmed, they themselves are not sure why the heck do I actually want this thing, right? And so many times students will say things like, hey, I really want X because I don't want Y anymore. And X might be a lot of different things. X might be, hey, I want a slimmer body. Hey, I want to be able to run around with my kids, right? I want to feel better. I want a better job. I want to make more money. I want to not fight with my spouse anymore. I want to feel a sense of purpose in my life. And I don't want to run out of breath when I run around with my kids, right? I don't want to experience not having enough money yet. I don't want to experience being a prisoner to my 9 to 5. I don't want to experience having to fight with my spouse anymore. I don't want to experience not feeling good in my own skin anymore, right? These are statements that a lot of times students will make. And especially because beginner students are obsessed with the how, right? Like we talked about before, beginner amateur students who don't actually understand the process of transformation, don't understand the process of becoming, right? Many beginner students will insist, and they'll say in the very beginning when they join your program, they'll say, hey, give me a checklist, right? Just tell me what to do. I will get it done. But the problem is that this doesn't work. The problem is that this doesn't work. Why is it that this doesn't work? The number one reason why it doesn't work is something that we've already talked about. I'm not going to go ahead and rehash that over here when we talked about being and becoming, right? They are not yet the person who is going to be able to execute on that checklist. Obviously, we already know that. But the other reason that I want to go ahead and shine light on inside of this training, and the other reason why it doesn't work to just give somebody a checklist, is because even though the client is saying, even though the student is saying that they want a slimmer body, even though they are saying that they want a better job, right? They're saying one thing, but what they actually want is something deeper. This is what we call the why underneath the why, okay? And so as an RWP, you have to understand that this is a critical component to being able to help someone attain their transformation. Because what you have to do is you have to draw out, you have to elicit what that greater and deeper desire is, aka what we call the why underneath the why. And only then can you help the student get to what it is that they truly want. And many times when you actually uncover the why under the why, you can help them get to where it is that they want to go faster. This concept of the why under the why is what allows you to be able to make your coaching so much more powerful. Okay. Now, I know as I'm talking about this concept, you might be thinking, okay, Coach Yasin, this sounds abstract. This sounds vague. Well, let me go ahead and really solidify this for you in context with a specific example. Okay. So this is what it might look like in the course of a coaching conversation. Okay. So the coach, the RWP, they might say, hey, what is it that you would like to experience? And then the student might say, hey, I want to look amazing in my swimsuit this summer. Right. And so then a good RWP is going to say, great. So you want to look great in your swimsuit this summer, right? And what the coach is doing, what the RWP is doing here is really reaffirming that they have heard what the student has said, okay? They're showing that they are listening. And this is a skill that you are going to learn how to be able to do. When we get to the next module in the art of transformation, we're going to talk about how to be able to do these things. So just stick with me in the course of this coaching conversation, because then it's going to really start to make sense to you, okay? Now, a lot of amateur coaches, a lot of amateur RWPs, they might say, and stop right here and say, okay, great. So the student tells me that they want to look great in their swimsuit this summer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put together a weight loss plan. I'm going to go ahead and put together a health plan, something like that. But that is absolutely wrong, okay? This coach, whoever does this, is an amateur, is a beginner, definitely did not get trained through the Remote Wellness Academy, because this coach has no understanding of this concept called the why underneath the why. Instead, what a good RWP, what an expert RWP does, is they go another layer deeper. And so then they ask, okay, well, what's important about that for you, right? What's important about being able to look amazing in your swimsuit this summer, right? So by asking this, they're going a layer deeper. And then the student might say, hey, I just want to feel hot. I just want to feel confident at our swim club. When I look at all the other moms, right, I feel like I'm a slob. Okay. And so again, the coach, using the techniques and the strategies in the art of transformation module that you are going to learn as well, they're going to reaffirm to the student that they are listening. So they're going to say, okay, so you want to feel hot. You want to feel confident. Got it. Okay. Right. That's a technique that you're going to learn. And then this RWP, this coach is going to go ahead and go another layer deeper. And then the coach is going to go ahead and ask, okay, well, what will that do for you? What is it going to do for you when you actually look and feel confident at that swim club with all the other moms, right? So by asking that, they're going another layer deeper. And then at this point, the students say, hey, just tell me what to eat already, right? Because again, amateur beginner students who don't understand the becoming process, who don't understand how success and goal acquisition actually works, are always obsessed over the how. And so the student might joke and say, hey, just tell me what to eat already, right? And then what you're going to do as a coach, right? Or you as an expert RWP is going to say, hey, absolutely, right? I'm going to tell you exactly what to eat. And thank you so much for being open and patient with me, okay? I know these questions might feel different from what you've experienced before, and that's because what you experienced before may not have actually worked for you, okay? And I'm here to make sure that we change that, and you're doing an amazing job. And so by doing this, you are calming the limbic self. Again, this is a skill and an art that you're going to learn in the art of transformation, okay? And so what you're doing is saying, hey, I'm going to give you exactly what you want. Don't worry, we're going to get to that. And you're just going ahead and calming that limbic self that's kind of getting a little bit roused up there, okay? And so on top of that, it's establishing that you know what it is that you are doing. And then the third thing it's doing is establishing that you are different than anything else this person has ever experienced ever before. Your remote wellness practice, your program, your transformation is unlike anything they have ever done before, because, hey, what you did before may not have worked. And so this experience is going to be different, because if you end up doing the same things you've always done, you always get what it is that you've always gotten, right? And so by doing this, this is a skill, and this is an expert remote wellness practitioner who is navigating this coaching conversation. And then what this coach is going to do is they're going to go ahead and return to that same level of depth, right? What will that do for you? So what will that do for you? And then the student's going to go ahead and reaffirm, and they're going to say, hey, you know what? They might struggle with it for a little while. And the students say, you know what? Then I would feel like I was sexy again, right? Because after having a baby, it's not easy, right? And then again, the coach, using their skill set, is going to say, okay, thank you. So you would like to feel sexy again. Is that right? And then the student says, exactly. Now, at this point, an amateur coach would take that at face value and then immediately start talking about nutrition and movement, and they end up in teaching and vomiting information mode, right? But nope. An expert RWP coach does not do this. Instead, what an expert RWP coach does is they go a layer deeper. And at this point, when you're starting to go deeper and deeper and deeper, what you're doing is you're starting to change your tonality, right? You're approaching it with a curious mindset, because as you go deeper, you realize that it's getting more and more sensitive. And so tonality is another skill that you're going to be learning in the art of transformation, so that way you can really start to pull these conversations off in an expert fashion. But the coach might ask, okay, and what's important about feeling sexy again? And then the student, because they're really starting to get into the conversation, right? They're starting to feel comfortable because you've helped them feel comfortable through your skill set of rapport building, which is another skill you're going to learn in the art of transformation. I feel like I've just hyped up module number for like crazy right now. But the student's going to say, hey, I feel like my husband might notice me for once. Now we're really starting to get deep on here, right? I feel like my husband might notice me for once. And so the coach, remember, it's very sensitive as you go on here. And so you got to make sure that you learn the art of transformation there is, so you feel like your husband might notice you for once, huh? And the student says yes, right? And now the student is in a territory that she did not know that she was going to enter, right? And so even at this point, an amateur coach might even take this and assume, okay, so she wants to be noticed by her husband. Let me go ahead and just give her a plan to get fit so that way she can get noticed by her husband, right? But nope, an expert RWP coach is not going to do this. An expert RWP coach is going to push deeper. And so the coach, again, with the curious mindset, is going to say, so when your husband notices you, what will having that do for you, right? And so at this point, the student might be thinking, man, I thought I signed up for this program and I thought I was going to go ahead and this person was going to tell me what to eat and this person was going to tell me how to exercise and all this kind of stuff. Where have we gone, right? But at this point, they're in it, they feel comfortable with you, right? And they're really being able to talk about something that they'd never been able to talk about, not only to themselves, but to other people as well, right? And so the student might say, hey, this might feel dumb talking to my remote wellness coach about this, but honestly, I just haven't felt connected to my husband in a long time, man, right? And just like that, what you've done is you've uncovered the why underneath the why, which is for her to feel connected to her husband again, right? And then the coach, of course, is using his or her skill set that they learn in the art of transformation to be able to build rapport and reaffirm and active listening and say, okay, got it. So what you want is to really feel connected to your husband. Is that right? And the student says yes, right? And so as you can see, this is the power of the why underneath the why. Do you see the power of what it is that we're talking about? The student went from, I want to feel and look amazing in my swimsuit this summer. And then they went into, hey, you know what? I want to feel hot and confident at the swim club with the other moms, right? And then they said, hey, I want to feel sexy again after having a baby. And then it was, hey, I want to get noticed by my husband. And then the fifth layer was, hey, I want to feel connected to my husband. And so do you see that if as a remote wellness practitioner, you designed a transformation around layer number 1, would be very different than if you designed it around layer number 2, would be very different than if you designed it around layer number 3, would be very different if you designed it around layer number 4, would be very different if you designed it around layer number 5. And so this is the power, and this is the reason why you need to make sure that you go the why underneath the why, is because the plan, the intention, who they are becoming, will completely change and transform if you are not able to target the real reason why the person wants to attain the transformation. I call this the sin of misattribution, okay? And I sometimes tell the other coaches and the other team and my team here at RWAs, I tell them the cardinal sin is misattribution, okay? It's okay if you don't get to where it is that you want to go. It's okay if you don't hit the target. But what the cardinal sin is misdiagnosing why you didn't get to the target. It's misdiagnosing what the actual problem is. Because at the end of the day, if you can actually target what the real problem is, then 9 times out of 10, solving it becomes so much easier. And so this is why when you actually uncover the why underneath the why, you are now in the back of your head as a remote wellness coach when you are designing their program, when you are actually helping them transform. What you are doing in the back of your head is you are knowing exactly why this student wants to get out of this transformation, is that they need to feel that connection with their husband, right? And so the student, when they tell you, hey, I want to look good in a swimsuit this summer, but then when you end up going layer by layer by layer deeper, you find out that what she really wants is she really wants to feel connected to her husband, right? And so if you do not uncover the why underneath the why, you might end up getting the student what it is that they wanted, but they still don't feel satisfied because it did not meet 100% the reason why they actually started this transformation in the first place. Are you seeing the power of this? for your own transformation? Are you seeing the power of this for your students' transformation? This is exactly the reason why you need to be able to go deep on your own personal purpose as well. Because you might end up making 6+ figures in remote wellness and still be deeply unsatisfied because you didn't understand why is it that you actually wanted to do that. And so this is why it's so absolutely critical to make sure that you understand this as a remote wellness coach, as a remote wellness practitioner for your students and for your own sake as well. And there's many reasons that we do this as humans, right? There's a lot of, I could literally make an entire training on why we actually do this as humans, but many times the reason that we as humans create these either fake realities or we really start to deny the reality that we actually want to create is because, number one, we sometimes feel very shamed and we sometimes feel like I shouldn't want this, right? A lot of our false beliefs and limiting beliefs start to take over. But that's not always also the reason. A lot of times, the reason why we actually don't even consciously know what it is that we want is because we ourselves are not conscious, right? We have never actually sat down to put pen and paper together in order to figure out, hey, why is it that I want this? Most people don't do the dang work like we talked about in module number 2, right? And so when we talk about becoming conscious, becoming an observer to your thoughts and emotions, right? Being able to understand your paradigm, all of that is necessary so that way you can start to uncover why is it that you want something. Maybe this is starting to sound familiar to module number 2 when we talked about getting conscious about your why. Remember the 7 layers of why activity? You now start to be able to see the reason that was actually inside of that training, okay? And so there are many ways that students will deny their dreams, right? Some students have many limiting beliefs around why they cannot attain their dreams, or they're not even truthful to themselves, right? They might say, hey, you know what? I don't deserve to have my real dreams fulfilled, right? I'm not at a certain income or status level yet, right? I have a lot of false beliefs that I'm not worthy, right? Maybe it's because it's too hard. Maybe because I'm gonna have to suffer too much, right? Maybe, hey, you know what? Getting rich, that's something that I can't do because I don't want to have to struggle that much. That's a belief that the person carries, right? Hey, you know what? I can't be successful with my health because I don't want to eat chicken and broccoli for the rest of my life. Again, a limiting belief that they've gone ahead and embodied inside of themselves, right? Hey, you know what? It's not the right time right now. I'm too late. I'm too early. I'm too old, right? I'm too young, whatever it might be. I missed the boat, right? A lot of times some students are afraid that they'll appear selfish and greedy, right? They're going to tell themselves, hey, you know what? I'm fine. I am what? Fine. This is the 4-letter word that I say is the dangerous F word that breeds complacency. When somebody says that I'm fine, it's just an excuse for them to not push for their dreams and what it is that they really want, okay? Another reason, there's so many reasons that I could come up with is that, hey, a lot of people worry about what others will think of them, right? Especially our loved ones, right? A lot of people are worried about what other people are going to think about them. And a lot of that has to do with their identity being tied too much to society's current paradigm. And so as you learn this, it's a normal thought for a lot of beginner RWPs to start thinking to themselves, you know what? I'm going to be that magic coach. I'm going to be that magic RWP that's going to save this student. But here's the truth. Students don't need a savior because they're not broken. They don't need a fixer because they're not broken, okay? The truth is that what students really need is they need a coach to be able to hold them to their why. What does that mean, holding someone to their why, okay? As the coach, what you're doing is you're holding the person accountable to believing that, hey, you know what? This person can create anything that they want in their life, okay? I believe in you is one of the most powerful statements that an RWP coach can say to their student, okay? Because as the coach, when someone tells you, I want to be more connected with my husband, right? When they tell you, when you go through that exercise and you go ahead and uncover their why underneath their why, when they tell you, I want to be more connected to my husband, immediately in your head as an RWP coach, you are immediately creating this vision that this future version of this student, the future version that this student who is sitting in front of me, who is sitting on me in Zoom, virtually, whatever it might be, right? This student, there is that reality that this student evolves and becomes their version 2.0 self, in which that outcome has already happened. What you are doing for the student is you are holding that vision inside of your head, that future version of that student already exists. And so what you're doing is you're basically holding in suspended animation for them and reminding them and holding them accountable to it that, hey, this future version that you told me you wanted, this version 2.0 self that you said you really wanted, it does exist. I'm telling you exists, and I'm going to hold you accountable to that. I'm going to remind you of that as well, right? This is what you said you wanted, right? Is this still what you want? Even as you listen to me right now, we do this a lot of times inside of the Remote Wellness Academy, inside of this program right here, is that many times students, as they go through this process, what they need is they need an RWP, they need a coach to be able to hold them accountable to their why, because they're scared, because they're nervous, because they feel defeated, because they feel doubtful, for all of the reasons that we talked about above. People have limiting beliefs, right? For all of those reasons. Inside of this program, you as well, when you come to us and say, hey, you know what? I don't know if I can continue with this program. Hey, you know what? Life got in the way. Hey, you know what? I don't know if I have time for this classroom. Well, the very first thing that we're going to go ahead and remind you of is, hey, this is what you said you wanted. You still want that, right? That future version of you who is listening to me right now, who's able to make 6+ figures income online inside of remote wellness, absolutely exists. I'm telling you it does, because I'm holding you accountable to that vision that you said that you really wanted. I believe in you, right? The person that can do that is 100% within you. You just need to make sure that you do the work and become that person. And so for you as an RWP and for you as a coach, that is what you are doing for your students. And so we are doing two things for them as RWPs, okay? So number one, the first thing that we already spoke about is what we are doing is we are helping our students identify what it is that they really want, so that way they don't move in 10,000 different directions, right? They don't end up getting spread out too thin and their energy goes in all these different directions. What we end up doing is we're helping them focus on exactly what it is that they want and why they want it. This is an awesome diagram. I love this right here, right? If you add up all of these different sources of direction of energy, it would end up just being one very long focus of direction of energy, right? And so the very first thing that we are doing for our students as coaches is we are helping them identify what it is that they really want, so that way they can focus their energy inside one direction and actually make progress towards that direction. And then the second thing that we are doing as coaches, as RWPs for our students, is we're holding the belief for that student of their desired reality. This is something that I call borrowed belief, okay? Because this is what you have to do in your head as an RWP, okay? If this student has this desire, then that means that somewhere out there, the future version reality exists for this student, and that they can achieve it if they become the person and put in the work. That is the vision that you have to hold for every single person that shows up in front of you as a student. And so as a coach, when we are looking at our students, we are looking to them and we are speaking to them as if they are already the version of themselves that they want to become, as if they have already achieved what it is that they want. And so what we are doing as coaches and what we are doing as RWPs is we are pouring into our students. We are speaking into them the identity that they want to become. Effectively, what we are is we are like a real life, breathing, becoming journal for our students, okay? Do you remember the power of identity statements that we spoke about in module number 2, right? We talked about how they could be either empowering or they could be disempowering. They either serve us or they do not serve us to where it is that we want to go, right? And so what you are doing as an RWP and as a coach is you are speaking into and pouring into the student the identity statements and the beliefs that they want to have as their version 2.0 self, okay? And so you are not looking at the student as if they are broken, as if they are powerless, okay? Instead, what you are doing is you are looking to them and saying that, hey, you can do this. You are powerful. I am here to remind you of how powerful you are. I am not here to fix you because you are not broken. You just need to figure out how to access the power that is already inside of you. You just need to figure out how to be able to make forward progress towards becoming that version of yourself that is effortlessly going to create that reality for yourself that I already know exists. All you got to do is put in the work to be able to make it a reality. And that is why I am here. That is why I am your remote wellness practitioner. That is why I'm your remote wellness coach, okay? And so I'm telling you right now, there is nobody else in that student's life who is doing that for them. I'm going to say that again. There is nobody else in that student's entire life that does that for them. This is the power of remote wellness, this is what we are able to do when we transform other people's lives, is that we are holding them accountable to the version that they want to become, okay? And so all you do as the coach is you are helping that person intersect with the future version 2.0 of themselves faster than they could have done it themselves, because what you are doing is you are giving them that shortcut to transformation and that shortcut to becoming. This is what it really looks like in a visual format. We talked about the BAR cycle, right? We talked about what you believe influences what actions you take, influences what you experience and the result, and then that feeds around and reinforces the belief, right? We talked about this in module number 2. But what I want to really bring your attention to is how all of this comes together when we talk about the why underneath the why. Because we talked about how you have your becoming journal, right? And then when you do your becoming journal every single day, that influences what actions you take, which you should be doing your becoming journal every single day. If you're not, I don't know why you're not putting in the work. Do the dang work, go watch that training again. But what actions you take is influenced by your becoming journal. And then that influences what experiences you get, and then that circles back around to your becoming journal. Well, how does this apply to your students, right? And how does this apply inside of a program like this? Well, when somebody joins a program, what ends up happening is that what the student believes is influenced by 2 things. Number 1, by the student's becoming journal, right? So right now, you have your becoming journal that you should be doing every single day. And that by itself is going to be monumental in your transformation, okay? So that by itself is going to influence what actions you take inside of this program. And that by itself is going to influence what experiences and results you get. And then that's going to feed around and influence your becoming journal again. However, as your RWP coach, okay, as your coach inside of this program, Coach Yasin, what I am doing for you inside of the training portal, inside of the classroom, inside of the coaching calls, what we are doing as an entire coaching organization, okay, Coach Cole, Coach Malik, everybody who is inside of this organization, what we are doing is we are reinforcing you inside of this program with borrowed belief. We are holding you accountable to becoming that version that you said you wanted to become. And so as a result, you end up actually being able to shortcut the process of transformation, where if you only did your becoming journal and that was the only thing you did, then yeah, you'll be able to become, right? You're going to actually be able to put the reps in, stack the rocks, put the votes in, right? Everything that we talked about. But then when you have an RWP coach and you have that borrowed belief, you have somebody who is speaking into you and pouring into you the identity statements and the beliefs that are required in order for you to get to where it is that you want to go, this entire transformation happens so much faster, because now it's kind of like you just put nitrous oxide on this whole belief process. And so you got your becoming journal, which is then also reinforced by the reality that I am reminding you that, hey, you're listening to me right now. You can and you will absolutely attain 6+ figures online as long as you put in the work and you become the person that is going to do it, right? So I'm reinforcing that. And then that is going to influence what actions you take, and that's going to influence the results that you get, and then it's going to circle back around. That exact same process is what you are going to be doing for your students, right? They're going to have their becoming journal, and what you are going to do in the domain of health for them is you are going to be their RWP coach, and they're going to use that borrowed belief from you as you pour into them the identity statements and the beliefs that is then going to allow them to do what actions they need to do in their health, which is then going to allow them to be able to get the results and the experiences that they want to have. And so in the beginning, the student doesn't have that conviction. They don't have that belief in themselves yet, right? And so what we are there to do as RWPs is we are there to provide it for them, right? This is why they are coming to us for transformation. And so your job as the remote wellness coach is to hold that conviction and belief for the prospect that their outcome already exists and is 100% possible for them. And then when someone feels like you are holding their future version of themselves that they want in the palm of your hands, it is so powerful. It draws them to you because they want to be inside of that vision. They just don't have the belief that it's possible for them yet. And so people don't walk around having a budget for coaching. People don't walk around having a budget for transformation. It's not a thing. But people do have money for the things that are important for them in their life. And so what we are selling here as remote wellness practitioners is we are selling future desired versions of people. We are selling desired realities, okay? Think about how cool that is. The product that we are selling is not a tchotchke on Amazon. We're not selling some drop shipping thing. We're not selling some kind of food in a restaurant or something that expires or anything like that. What we are literally doing is we are selling the most valuable thing that anybody would ever want, which is their version 2.0 reality and their version 2.0 self. We're holding that in the palm of our hands, and we are showing them, hey, this is the power of what is possible for you when you actually join as a student, and I teach you how to be able to make this a reality for yourself, okay? And so when you use the why underneath the why, you are creating that compelling vision for the person, and they are drawn to you like a tractor beam, because you have painted for them the vision of the version of themselves that they want to become, okay? And so when you do this properly, the automatic response from the person is, I have to have this. I have to work with this coach. I have to work with this RWP. And the reason that's the automatic response is because of the fact that you have properly painted that vision of their version 2.0 self. You have properly painted what is possible for that student, and you have held it in the palm of your hands, and you have said, hey, you are not broken. You are not need to be fixed. You are not helpless. I am going to empower you to be able to transform and become the person who can have this reality. That is the power of what it is that we are doing as RWPs, okay? And this is not something that you are tricking them with, because that's exactly what it is that you are going to help them with, right? You are going to help them walk into their new reality by becoming the version of themselves that is going to create that reality effortlessly. This, my friends, this, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of the why underneath the why. Okay, do you see how I really had to basically make an entire separate training to explain to you how powerful what it is that we are talking about is? And so the why underneath the why summarized, a simple question sequence that can be utilized for this is, hey, what it is that you would like to be experiencing, and then you go deeper. What's important about that for you? Then you go deeper. And then what's a good thing that might happen as a result of getting what it is that you want? Especially that last question. That last question is key to be able to help the limbic brain, because if you remember, the limbic brain is always imagining the bad. It's always about scarcity mindset. It's always about survival. And so a lot of times it wants to imagine, okay, hey, what's important about that for you? And then it wants to go to the negative, right? But that last question, what it does is it really engages the frontal cortex, aka the conscious self, like we talked about in module number 2, and it helps us focus on the benefit instead. If you remember, inside of the Becoming Journal, we have that question, what it is that I do want, what is it that I do have, right? This is similar to that. This question is engaging that part of the brain. And so this is what you can do for yourself as well inside of the Becoming Journal, right? For your health, you can say, hey, what is it that I would like to be experiencing in my health, right? Then you go deeper. What's important about that for me? Okay. And then what good thing might happen as a result of getting what is it that I want inside of my health, okay? And so this same question sequence can really start to be applied in every area of life. This can be applied in money, in career, in relationships, in purpose, right? And it's a formula for really starting to get a good picture of your why behind your why for all of the areas of life for yourself, as well as for all of the areas of life for your students, okay? And so you're gonna learn so much more about how to use the why behind the why. As you already saw, there's a lot of skills that are necessary in order to really pull this off. You can't just walk into a conversation and really get people to open up about the why behind the why without knowing the prerequisite skill set to really be able to uncover and open this up in a way that you don't open up a wound that goes ahead and really damages the person. Because some of these conversations, especially when you talk about the why behind the why, imagine an amateur surgeon, right? If you're an amateur surgeon and you go in there and you just decide to cut people up, you can do some real damage, right? And so when we talk about module number 4 and we talk about the skills of transformation, right, we're going to talk about how to actually do this in a very precise way. So it's actually more beneficial to the student rather than harming them, because when you have them really open up like this, if you don't do it properly, it can really start to harm people, okay? So it's very important that we do these skill sets effectively, efficiently, and we make sure we do them in the proper way. And don't worry, we're going to teach you exactly how to be able to pull it off so that way you can become an expert RWP. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about your action steps for this specific training. So what you're going to go ahead and do as the action steps for this specific training is you're going to go in and you're going to revise your becoming journal specifically for health as a mini RWA health student. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to look at your becoming journal that you created inside of module number 2. And at this point, you should have already printed it out and you should already be reviewing it daily. If you're not, come on, like I've said this many times already inside of the training, like this is going to transform your life. You got to make sure that you put in the dang work. Okay. So what you're going to do is as a mini RWA health student, right? What you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and utilize all of the things that you learned inside of module number 2. And you're going to go ahead and set your North Star towards your health goals for the next few months, because it's going to be absolutely critical for you to practice what it is that you are preaching. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, what elements of my becoming journal can I update for health specifically? Okay, so you want to go in and you want to revise your what, your why, your who, your transformation statements, right? All of those, you want to go ahead and revise them inside of the domain of health, and especially your why of health based on what it is that we spoke about inside of this training. And then if needed, you can also go back through some of the trainings in module number 2 and really look at them through the lens of, okay, I'm becoming my healthy version 2.0 self, right? So when we talked about it in module number 2, I kind of left it open for you to kind of just evaluate what direction you wanted to go in over the next 90 days. But especially now that you go through module number 3, you want to make sure that you are actually focusing specifically inside of the domain of health for the next 90 days. So that way you can start to implement everything that you're going to actually be learning inside of this module, right? And so you want to ask yourself, what would the version 2.0 of myself look like if I was healthy the way that I want to be, right? You may not feel confident right now as you listen to me to actually help others inside of the domain of health, right? You might feel like you yourself have so much work to do. But what I want to do is I want to assure you, don't worry. Don't be scared. Don't be nervous, okay? All you need to do is you need to just put the focus inside of your becoming journal for the domain of health, so that way you can become ready over the next few weeks and over the next few months by cementing in your mind the idea that you are a remote wellness practitioner, by really looping that belief over and over and over again and stacking those rocks, and that you can help people transform their lives through health because you practice what it is that you preach, because you actually did the journey throughout this module along the way, right? So you didn't just go through this module, do some of the action steps and just kind of like learn and observe it. No. You actually did it. And so that's why this action step is about you revising the becoming journal, because you may not be ready yet, but through the process, I promise you, you will be ready, okay? And then obviously all of the knowledge pieces that you're going to learn throughout this module and the recommended resources are going to allow you to become that person as well, okay? So to really close out this training, let's talk about your engagement question. Remember, for this specific module, all of these engagement questions are required in the way that we have them. And so you want to make sure that you are using the Shift Enter key on your keyboard, and inside of your comment, you are putting the answer, Shift Enter, start a new line, and then put the second answer on there. So the question that I want to know from you, okay, as a mini RWA health student, is what was your biggest takeaway, aha moment, and thoughts on this training? It was a doozy. We definitely talked a lot about a lot of different topics, very powerful topics. And then number 2, how are you going to be adjusting your becoming journal for this new healthy version 2.0 of yourself? Okay, so again, remember, I'm going to emphasize this one last time inside of this training, is because of the fact that you are becoming a mini RWA health student for this module, you want to make sure that you answer both questions one by one. You want to put one answer inside of the comment box in the student community, and then you want to hit Shift Enter, so that way it starts a new line within that exact same comment, and then you put number 2, and then you put your second answer on there. Okay, so I want to know the answer of both of these things, so that way we can go ahead and keep tabs on your health journey and make sure that you are progressing properly. Okay, so this was an awesome training. Great job on making it through, and I will catch you on the next training.